Okay, so today I want to do drop caps with you. This is a kind of lettering, decorative lettering style that you can use for cards or for actually anything. I don't even want to give you any ideas. Anything that you feel needs a decorative letter, you can make that. So this is called drop caps. I'm going to explain to you what it means and a little later, but first we'll start with making that drop cap. So this is a letter. You make a letter form, and then in its place, instead of just making a large letter, you can decorate it with a lot of stuff. These kind of letters were used in historic documents like old books, or the books which is called the Book of Hours in calligraphic book form. These were used as start of pages. I'm going to show you some samples later during the class as well. But we can start off first with just making one letter, and then you know what I'm speaking about as we go by and by. So to begin with, since both your names and mine starts with an A, we'll start off with making an A shape. As we know, it's the shape of the letter is fairly simple, but when you want to make a drop cap out of it, you can. I've drawn it really light. You can then give it a thickness. So you just make a line on either side of the letter or really all around the letter. So that you get a nice thick letter. Do you know how to make this? So you use the form of the letter as a skeleton, and then you just cover it up by drawing a line on all sides. Can you see this? How I've gone on all sides, except where for the tip, I don't go straight up because it just becomes like a very tall letter. I just cut it in half, cut it flat. And when I'm making the lines coming to the inside, I should make sure that this almost looks like this is the same line traveling forward so that you don't get an odd shape. Now, once you get this shape, let me just show this to you first, girls, and then you can start drawing. Once you get this shape, you can remove the skeleton letter, and then you can start making a design inside of this letter form. Just make sure that these are well balanced. And for this design, I can make all sorts of stuff. Like, for example, I could make a couple of flowers here. And then make leaves all around, maybe make a flower here as well. As long as my letter shape looks the way it is, it will, I can decorate it with whatever stuff I want. Now I can make the flowers on top of the letter as well. Just keep it like that and keep the letter underneath it and then color the letter up also. Or I can just make this letter out of the flowers and leaves as well. So here I'm going to write a B. That way we can get the whole alphabet done. I'm deliberately making these letters rather big. In the B, instead of making an outline, I can make the flowers and leaves the structure of the B itself. So here I could probably draw a vine. I'm sure you've done something like that before, haven't you?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So these are both a different form of drop cap. Now, just wait for a minute. I'm going to paint this so you get the idea. So I'm going to make a very simple flower here, removing all these lines. Okay, this is how it's okay to use an eraser. After I have made the entire design, I'm using the eraser only to remove these dark lines before painting. I'm going to put my flowers here. In this case, I'll keep my flowers here. I'm going to make these into little rosettes. I'll show you how to do these also. Very pretty. And now while this dries, both of you can start making this drawing and finish it by the time my roses dry. And then I can show you the leaves, which you can watch. And then we can finish the painting together. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
So right now we just have to draw the letters, right?
Sorry?
So right now we just draw the letters.
Yeah, just draw these letters like I've drawn. Have you understood how to draw these? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm done, mom.
Done?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Adya, are you done?
I'm done with the A.
Okay. All right. Now for the rest of the A, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Before painting the leaves, I am going to paint the backdrop in a blue color. So I'm leaving the leaves drawn in pencil the way they are so that I can come back and draw on paint on top of it. So this is one way where we make the letter as well, and we will make decorations on top of it as well. So drop caps are a very interesting technique of using letters creatively, designing them creatively, and also having, I guess, a toolkit of different kinds of letters that you can use for different projects. I suppose you have to make a poster for somebody. You don't need to just make big block letters and finish it off with that. Or you want to write somebody's name for their birthday, for example. You can do something like this, and I'm going to wait till that dries, but in the meantime, I'll show you the next part, which is this. I can make a nice vine like this. And to that, I can make almost as if I take a vine and I were to uh, plant it in on a particular, say, grid in the shape of the letter B. This can go to the right, or sorry, to the top, and this can go to the bottom. Now, because the letters of the alphabet are so familiar to us, even if we don't have the border, the outline of the letter, we tend to notice these things. Pretty much like faces. We are so tuned to reading and reading alphabets that this very naturally, has it happened to you that you look into a rather odd space or odd place and maybe a crack somewhere, or just um, the way some shape is made by paint reminds you of a letter, and you'll say, this looks like a B or this looks like a C. Or sometimes when you're being given instructions, you'll be asked to make a shape that resembles a letter. Because if I were to ask you to make a bottle, for example, I could say start off with a C shape. So it's very intrinsic to us now. Does this look like a B?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you get the idea now? So I want you to work on making an entire creative alphabet like this. You can choose a theme, um, maybe just flowers if you want, and do the whole alphabet A to Z in a creative style. See here on top of this, I can just paint these leaves like so. Here I don't really need to make an artificial shape for the leaves or the branches. I could just put leaves anywhere I want because here they are just an embellishment. And in this case, they are the form. Can you, do you understand the difference that I'm trying to make here? If you don't, then you should ask me. But what did you just say? I could just be completely unnecessarily giving you some terms and you think that's very important. So maybe I should know or I should not ask. Or I could be, to be a little impolite, completely bullshitting you. Do you know what bullshitting means? I could give you some highfalutin explanation, but it actually may mean nothing. So learn to question always, and you can practice that on me. So I said, in this case, in the letter A, the leaves are just an embellishment. So I don't need to make a stalk or a stem. But in the case of the B, it is the stalk creates the form of the letter. It's not just an embellishment. Do you understand the difference between the two?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain it to me?
The first one is like you're sticking leaves onto a background, and in B, it's like you're making the letter out of the leaves.
Correct. And what was A again?
Like maybe it's like a background and you're sticking leaves onto it.
Okay. All right. And the difference here is that if I were to remove any of the leaves or flowers from the A, would the A still be visible as A?
Yeah, it wouldn't make a difference for A, but for B, it would make a difference.
Correct. If I were to remove the leaves from the top, then it might look like a minuscule B instead of a capital B. So, what are the two words that I told you?
Embellishment and
Embellishment and
you know what? Like I don't really remember it as a word. I remember it.
embellishment, you got right. And the second one is form. So if you land up going to art or design school, they will give you principles of art and principles of design. So form is a word that is often used, and maybe in the beginning you'll just get very confused that of course everything has a form. Why does it have to be part of a principle? But it's important to differentiate the two. When we create a, say, a square, the square is the form. But when we use that square to make some patterns, then it becomes an embellishment. So the same thing can be form also, and same thing can be embellishment also. They're very simple terms, but it's good to remember them because then you can, when you are thinking about design just in words, you can design much in a much more with many more complicated concepts. Okay, so now that you know how to do the letter,
Question.
yes.
For some reason, my paint is coming very.
What is happening to your paint?
Like if you look in the B, the letter, it's like green.
What size brush are you using?
I'm using the size. Doesn't say. Oh, size 4.
Size 4. And what is happening, you said?
It's like when I'm painting, it's like getting patchy with like. So if I'm painting
Mm-hmm.
just like a line,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something with the paper maybe, but I don't know.
Oh, don't do that there. Oh,
It's like going like that.
so have you put cream on your hand or something?
No.
All right. It could be that there is some oil or something that is on the paper already, and that's why it is looking a little weird.
Okay.
Mm. Never mess up your paper like that. How many times I've told you? Don't make sample colors over there. You can always describe it to me. You can say that the color is not sitting well or something like that. I get so disturbed with that. Your page has to look beautiful. Even if you're writing just a tiny note, it has to look beautiful at all times. That is perpetual practice.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, I think I've shown you these flowers before. In these flowers now, I can make some shapes on the inside to make them look interesting. My simplest go-to is making a shape in some darker colors, like a mix of scarlet and crimson and maybe burnt umber or sometimes even black. So I make this squiggle shape that looks like a six. And then holding the brush upright, I will deliberately make a very bad jalebi or chakli so that it does not become a perfect spiral. A perfect spiral will look very boring here. The trick is to keep your brush upright, but also let it swing. So then this starts looking like a nice rosette. So when you're making these alphabets, once in a while, you can also try directly painting without drawing. Like the letter C now, we know the C is going to be like this. It's not very complicated. So maybe we can try something simple. I'm going to try very simple flowers. This is the center. I'm visualizing how my letter C is going to be. It's going to come in a nice curve like this. And I could just make a bunch of flowers first. Now, I typically don't like to mix too many colors. I like the colors that are more or less analogous. So even if I do use multiple colors, they would be almost like sister colors or neighbor colors. They would be from the same neighborhood as each other. Neighborhood on the color wheel. So red and orange generally sit next to each other on the color wheel. So I'll just use that and then I'll keep distributing them. And in this case, I'm going to make multiple colored leaves. So I'll start off with a blue-green color first. And maybe make all the leaves in blue. So I am giving them this direction. Now, sometimes when you work with wet colors, the color will also run from one object to another. And sometimes that can look good. So don't, especially in a project like that, not as if we're making a face or, oh, my color is very into. In fact, maybe I can add some right in the center here. Why not? Something like this and make it really dense. And so far I was using a very thick brush. So now I can probably move to a thin brush and make smaller leaves in between with stems, and they can even overlap. And I can also add a few dots or tiny leaves. So for the easier letters, or most letters actually would be quite easy. You can keep adding these in between to fill this up also. This is not looking so good, but after it dries, we don't know what's going to happen. So let me explain to you the concept of drop cap. A drop cap is the short form of the term drop capitals. Drop or dropped capitals.
We've done this before, ma'am.
Yes.
We've done this before.
I know, that's what I asked you.
I think that we have.
You completely forgot.
Yes.
Hmm. That's okay. That means we must have done lots of other stuff. So I'm writing this in two colors so that you know where the word drop cap comes from. Dropped capitals. So capital letters, in a word, let's say, or in a sentence, you have a baseline. Then you have a cap height. So that's a capital height. And then you have something called, Alia, do you remember these terms?
Yeah.
Good. So cap height or capital line would be where your capital would sit. And the space between baseline and X line would be where your minuscule letters or small letters would sit. Now, when you drop cap, you drop the baseline of the capital letter. So when you make a very large letter, suppose you have a certain page that looks like this. And like in old storybooks, you would have um, the start of the story, but you would also have an illustration. So you might have the start of the story somewhere here, and you'd have the illustration over here. And then the first letter of that story would be rather large. So suppose we say we want to write a story that starts with once upon a time. So you'd have this big O, very decorative. You might also have, traditionally, they would have a very elaborate design, which was called illumination. And then inside this, they would have a part of the picture of the story that they want to tell. So when you write this and you start writing your story from here, because of course the baselines need to match, and you start writing once upon a time, and then you start writing more and more. In the time when these things were not written on paper, books were written on vellum, which was animal skins. It would, imagine how much paper would be wasted if you left so much space for every story that you wrote. So this is almost 1/4 of a page. And you left 1/4 of a page here, then for the next story, you left another quarter. So you would effectively have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every 6 stories, 1 page would be wasted. Correct? So to try,
The newspapers, right?
sorry?
In a lot of newspapers, like the first letter is
In
larger.
newspapers, yeah, in newspapers now they have used the same thing, but it comes from this system. So instead of that, they decided that we want that decorative letter, but we don't want to waste space. So we will just drop the baseline of the capital letter by how much? Can you see these baselines? This is the original baseline. Drop it by 1, 2, 3, 4, so that we can start the story here, but we can still have the decorative letter. That's why it is called a drop cap. Got it? Adya, did you get it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So whenever you use these letters, you can write, suppose you want to use this for a story or something like that, you can easily start your story from anywhere. In fact, you could also start it from somewhere like this now. And I would encourage you to start writing small poems or passages where you can practice writing drop caps. See what a nice style this gives you suddenly. Instead of a boring letter, you can now make something other. You could also write something like, congratulations. I'm going to write that and show you. Congratulations is such a long word. I often land up not being able to fit it. You can also do something like that. I'm just going to stop at congrats now. See, instead of just writing boring letter, we can easily make a card that looks like this. Where else can you use this, do you think?
Projects,
Projects, and what kind of projects would you use them?
school projects,
I guess that, but can you give me a subject
um,
and imagine how you would use it?
maybe like for like writing the headings and stuff when you're doing something.
Headings, yes, you can use it for headings.
Cards and stuff.
Cards, yes. Think of something that you've not. What was the last thing that you did where you think you could have used something like that? Even if it's not usual, I want you to think of something other than the usual. Okay, while we're doing this, you want to make another few letters? Let me see what you can come up with. How about trying the letter D and show me? Alia, don't do a Google search.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm not doing.
Good. I want you to think yourself. Okay, start making a D and start thinking about where you can use it, which would be unusual. I have just thrown this question at you. I've not thought of anything myself. So it's not as if I'm imagining something that you have to guess. I want us all to think about some unusual use of a drop cap.
Labels for food items.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice. Okay, how about using different mediums? We could also try using color pencils. I'm going to make a D with color pencil. And this time I'm going to make different kinds of flowers.
fairy tales and all, like when you're
Fairy tales they already have. Okay, I think my colors here are um, my color pencils are watercolor pencils. But I can do this also.
are you using paint, ma'am?
I'm using paint, yeah. So a mix of the two. I get a pencil line and I'm coloring it with pen. And because these pencils are also watercolor, I can spread that out also. Here I'm going to make my orange flowers, color them with yellow. So you could also consider making just artwork with this. Like for example, how about making a poster of flowers, like summer flowers or flowers of the Deccan or something like that, wherever you're from. And each of the flower names you could write with a small picture of the flower itself. Hmm. Excuse me. Oh, another thing we can do is mix up the paint with pen also. With the pen, often we have a lot of control. So you can make some complicated shapes. And in something like this, all the flowers or the elements do not necessarily have to be connected. They're all just strewn about. Then if you want to, you can add some cute elements like butterflies or bees. Also do a graphic like that. And you can keep filling it up as much as you want. So by next week, do you think both of you can make a whole alphabet? I want to see.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want your letters to be about the same size throughout. You can distribute them maybe 6 to 1 A4 page. Enough room around them, make them presentable. We should be able to put this as a project that you have done. Okay, so A to Z, all letters, and be as creative as you want. Another thing I forgot to tell you was you can also paint the background sometimes.
So, ma'am, do we have to do different themes for all the letters or one theme throughout?
No, you can have different themes. You might as well enjoy different kinds of themes, but do it as a project. So if we've done A, B, C, D today, then the next four letters have to be tomorrow. That's Tuesday. Then the next four on Wednesday. Then the next four on Thursday. And then the next four on Friday. So how many is that? 20. Then the next four on Saturday. That's 24. And then the last two on Sunday. So you have to start from tomorrow. And if you can do it every day, do it every day instead of sitting on one day and trying to finish all the 26 in one day. It won't be fun, really. Okay?
Ma'am,
Mhm.
do we have to do on a separate page?
No, you can do about 6 on one page and then do every six on every page would take you to how many pages? About 4, 5 pages. Okay?
Means in a book?
In the same book, yeah, same drawing book.
Okay.
Hmm. So if they are nice, then we should be able to cut around them and then maybe make a flip book or something like that with that. So they need to be about the same size. Don't make one really big, one very tiny, or all 26 very tiny and fit them in one page. Then you won't be able to do too much design. No? Any questions?
No.
Okay, good. So then we'll end the session for today.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll see you next week. I want to be able to see all your letters next week. Huh? You can send them in before also. And if you have any questions, please ask. Okay, bye.
Bye.